What if I told you there is a city where, for years, people were afraid to walk outside after dark? A city that earned a terrifying reputation around the world. A place many called the murder capital of the world. But here's the shocking part. The story you've heard is only half the truth. Intro. When people hear the name San Pedro Sula, many immediately think of danger, crime, and fear. For years, international headlines painted a picture of a city overwhelmed by violence. News reports showed flashing police lights. Stories of gangs spread across social media. Travelers were warned to stay away. And slowly, the city's name became synonymous with danger. But cities are more than headlines. Behind every statistic are real people. Families. Students. Workers. Dreamers. People trying to build better lives. Today, we're going beyond the sensational stories to uncover what really happened in San Pedro Sula, Honduras. How did this city become one of the most feared places on Earth? What caused the violence? And perhaps most importantly, is San Pedro Sula still that dangerous today? Let's find out. Chapter 1: A City with Big Dreams. At first glance, San Pedro Sula doesn't look like the city many people imagine. Located in northern Honduras, it is one of the country's largest economic centers. Factories operate around the clock. Businesses fill busy streets. Markets are crowded with vendors selling everything from fresh fruit to handmade goods. The city plays a major role in Honduras's economy. Thousands of people travel there every day for work. New businesses continue to open. Construction projects reshape parts of the skyline. Yet despite its economic importance, San Pedro Sula struggled with challenges that would eventually attract global attention. Chapter 2: The Roots of the Problem. To understand the city's reputation, we need to look deeper. Violence doesn't appear overnight. It grows from many different factors. Poverty. Lack of opportunities. Weak institutions. Organized crime. For years, Honduras faced significant economic difficulties. Many young people found themselves without stable jobs. Some neighborhoods lacked resources and investment. At the same time, international drug trafficking routes passed through Central America. Criminal organizations saw opportunities. These groups competed for territory and influence. As tensions grew, violence increased. Unfortunately, ordinary citizens often became caught in the middle. Families who simply wanted peaceful lives suddenly found themselves living in dangerous environments. Chapter 3: The Years That Shocked the World. By the late 2000s and early 2010s, San Pedro Sula was making international headlines for all the wrong reasons. Crime rates reached alarming levels. Global media outlets repeatedly highlighted the city's struggles. The statistics were shocking. Many people around the world had never heard of San Pedro Sula before. Now they were hearing about it constantly. The city's reputation spread rapidly. Television reports, online articles, documentaries, social media posts. Everywhere the same message appeared. Danger. Fear. Violence. For many outsiders, the city's identity became reduced to a single story. But reality was always more complex. Chapter 4: What Daily Life Looked Like. Here's something that often gets lost in dramatic headlines. Millions of people didn't suddenly disappear. Life continued. Children still went to school. Parents still went to work. Restaurants still served customers. Shops still opened every morning. Football games were still played. Families still celebrated birthdays. People still fell in love. Friends still gathered together. In other words, despite serious challenges, daily life continued. This doesn't mean the problems weren't real. They were. But focusing only on crime can make people forget that real communities existed there. Communities filled with hardworking people trying to create normal lives. Chapter 5: The Role of Gangs. One of the biggest factors behind the city's reputation involved gangs. Some criminal groups gained influence in certain neighborhoods. These organizations became involved in extortion, drug distribution, and other illegal activities. Businesses sometimes faced pressure. Residents sometimes lived under fear. Local authorities faced enormous challenges. Reducing violence wasn't as simple as arresting a few individuals. The issues were deeply connected to broader social and economic conditions. This made solutions difficult, and progress often came slowly. Chapter 6: A Turning Point. Then something interesting happened. Authorities began implementing new strategies. Security measures increased. Law enforcement efforts expanded. Community programs received greater attention. International organizations became involved. Local leaders pushed for change. Little by little, improvements began appearing. The transformation wasn't instant. There was no magical overnight solution. But trends started moving in a more positive direction. Areas that once felt abandoned began receiving investment. Businesses gained confidence. Residents slowly regained hope. Chapter 7: The Surprising Numbers. Many people still believe San Pedro Sula is exactly the same as it was a decade ago. But reality changes. Cities evolve. Conditions shift. Over time, crime rates declined significantly compared to their previous peaks. Experts who track crime trends noted substantial improvements. That doesn't mean every problem disappeared. No city is perfect. However, the image many people still carry in their minds often reflects the past more than the present. This is one reason why understanding context matters. A reputation can last much longer than the circumstances that created it. Chapter 8: The Human Side of the Story. Imagine growing up in a city known around the world for something negative. Imagine telling people where you're from and immediately seeing concern in their faces. For many residents, this became normal. Yet countless people continued working to improve their communities. Teachers educated future generations. Entrepreneurs started businesses. Volunteers organized programs. Families invested in their neighborhoods. These stories rarely receive international attention. But they are just as important as crime statistics. Perhaps even more important. Because they reveal the resilience of ordinary people. Chapter 9: What visitors see today. Visitors who arrive today often discover something unexpected. Busy commercial districts. Modern shopping centers. Restaurants. Parks. Cultural events. Friendly residents. Like many cities around the world, some areas are safer than others. Travelers still need common-sense precautions. But the image of an entire city frozen in fear does not fully reflect reality. Many visitors leave with a more balanced perspective. They discover a place that is far more complex than the headlines suggested. Chapter 10: The Lesson for the World. San Pedro Sula teaches an important lesson. A city's reputation can become trapped in time. One dramatic headline can spread across the world. Millions of people may remember it. But far fewer people hear about the improvements that come later. This happens everywhere. Not just in Honduras. Cities change. Communities recover. People adapt. Progress happens. Sometimes slowly. Sometimes imperfectly. But it happens. And when we focus only on the worst moments, we risk missing the full story. Outro. So was San Pedro Sula once considered one of the most dangerous cities in the world? Yes. That reputation came from very real challenges. But is that the entire story? Not even close. Behind the headlines is a city filled with hardworking people, businesses, families, and communities striving for a better future. A city that has faced enormous obstacles. A city that continues to evolve. And a city that reminds us that places are never defined by a single chapter of their history. Because sometimes, the most interesting stories aren't about how a place fell into crisis. They're about how people fought to rise above it. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments. Would you visit San Pedro Sula, or did this story change your perspective? Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.